Hey guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump straight into it about this guy who was stalking me and I didn't even notice it until the end. So there was this guy, we'll go ahead and call him Jeremy, okay? And Jeremy, he wasn't, there wasn't anything odd about him. Like, I'm really quiet as to myself. We were in college and the course that I was taking was 3 months and it was over the whole summer. We had to go in every single day except for Sundays. And then Saturday we stayed for 8 hours and then we had like a lunch in between. Weekdays, it was like a 3 or 4 hour class at night. Always at night. Okay, so whenever I first got there was a group of girls. They seemed cool, but for my personality, they were way too loud, like so loud. Their personalities, their voices, they acted like they were in high school, like the jokes and the ha 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 falling out of chairs. They were not for me. Okay, so I wasn't friends with anybody really in that class. I talked to them both like here and there, or if like they'd ask me stuff, because like I had taken the course before, so I knew like a lot of stuff. And they're just like, oh, Allie's so cool and I hope I can get to your level. And I'm like, little do you know, it's my second time taking this class. But anyway, there was this guy, Jeremy. He sat 2 seats down from me. So I sat like here and then he sat like right here and there was this empty seat in the middle. And I just wanted to sit somewhere like alone because I used to sit in the back, but some girl kept taking my spot because I got there like last minute. And I was like, whatever, bitch, you can have the seat. But we didn't start like the first time that we started talking, like we made like chit chat here and there, and then I didn't have a book for the class because the book was expensive and I already paid for the class myself and quit my job to take this class. So like I was out of money. I was trying to use Quizlet, look online for stuff, and finally he was just like, hey, I have like an extra book if you want it, like I can give it to you. And I was like, thanks. Like, yeah, I that would help me a lot. So I started using the book. You know, we would talk about like school and notes and stuff like that. And then one time it was time to be partners and he was like, hey, do you want to partner up? And I was like, yeah, because I didn't really talk to anybody. And for him, he sat beside me, thought he was kind of smart. So we partnered up and then he started like, he was just like, hey, like, so what's your deal? What's your story? And I was just like, my what? It's like, your story, you know, he's like, you're just like different from all the other girls in this class, you know, you're like really laid back, like what's the reason? And I was like, that's just me. I had to sip some tea because y'all about to get all of the tea. So he went ahead and he was just like telling me I was different and stuff like that. Then he started telling me things about him. He had like burns all over him because he was in the military. So he said that like he was in the military, he got like blown up and like he still survived. And I didn't push past that because that's his trauma. I'm not gonna ask you to relive it and be like, oh, what happened? When? How'd you get this burn? Like I just left that alone. And then he just like started bringing up odd stories. Like he told me a story about like, because I was like, I don't really like people that much. Like I say to myself, he's like, yeah, me too. I used to have this boss that used to like sexually harass me and always like push up against me trying to get me to talk to her, and it took me so long to leave that job. And I was just like, where does stories like this come from? Like we're not even like that. Like why are you telling me this story? But I was just like, wow, that must have been hard for you. I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, wow, you know. And after that so I leave class early. Like as soon as the bell hits, I'm out of class, I'm gone. So I went ahead and left. That's how it is every single day that I went to class. So for the next couple of days of class, I get there right before like I'm supposed to be there, like right at the dot, like 2 minutes before or on the time we're supposed to be there. And I have a Jeep and I really love my Jeep. So I park where I can see my car in the window, and he would park directly behind that, like behind my car. And whenever he would see me get out, he was probably just late for class too. I won't say he was trying to like find out what time I was gonna be there, but he would get out the car, or like he would, but that was a weird thing. Like I'd be walking into class like la 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 la, just walking, and this is him. I'm just
Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm just about to go into class. Yeah.
and I'm thinking, who are you on the phone with when you're about to go into class? And why does this happen every single day before class and you're telling them they're going into class? Then you get off the phone when I get out my car or when you see me walking. But anyway, he would walk in with me, he'd compliment me, say I look nice and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, thanks. So he would keep like, we always had to end up walking in together, and we were the last two. And you have to take an elevator to get to the 3rd floor for our class and be just us. And it'd be like, just awkward in the elevator. And that wasn't bad, that was okay. And this is when stuff started to get really odd. So I always bought stuff from the vending machine downstairs because before I would work, then go to class, or like I had something to do, then go to class, and I was hungry. So I would always get stuff from the vending machine downstairs and I would take it upstairs. This particular day, they did not have the stuff that I liked in the vending machine because I kept eating it so much that they were sold out, which is flaming hot Doritos, and then I would get a lemonade. And then one day he came up to me, we were talking about like health and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to like gain weight because like I'm fit, but I want to like put on like some pounds and stuff. I was like, so I just try to eat all throughout the day. And then he looked, he was like, eating like stuff like this, you're not gonna get it. And it was stuff that I usually don't get at the vending machine. I was like, oh yeah, I know, because I usually brought food in too. And I was like, yeah, I know, I didn't have time to stop for food. And downstairs, he was like, I was like, I usually drink. And before I could say what I usually drink, he's like,
yeah, lemonade.
and I was like, damn, like, why is he trying to like beat me to it? I was like, yeah, I usually drink lemonade. He was like, yeah,
The pink one, right? From downstairs?
and I was like, yeah, I do. And he was like,
Yeah, those flaming hot Doritos.
and I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah.
Yeah, because I've watched it at the vending machine a couple of times, and I always see like the food that you come and eat up here, and I know that's not what you usually eat, so it's all good.
I was like, is it all good? Is it? And then he like started naming like other stuff that I ate. He was like, yeah, because that food that you brought the other day, that oxtail, that Chinese, and he was like naming foods that I ate the week before. He was like, oh, that looks so good. And he was like so excited about it. Like, yeah, I know this about her. She's gonna like this. He was just like, and I was just like, wow, it's crazy. You remember all of that. And that was fine. Let that go. And one day my car, like my car always needs oil because of how much I drive before I even get an oil change. So I keep oil in my car. And my boyfriend screwed the lid on too tight, like under the hood, and I couldn't get it open. And I saw walking in one afternoon. I was like, hey, I was like, can you please like help me open this? Like I was like, it's really stuck and I just can't get it. He was like, yeah, I got you. And he popped the hood and he helped me open it and everything. And he was just like, he was like, he went ahead and opened it and I was gonna put the oil in. And he was like, no, I'll put the oil in. I was like, okay, cool. Because I'm gonna get my hands dirty anyway. And he poured it in there and it wasn't even hot that day. And like after he was done, he screwed it back on. He was like, ooh. I was like, wow, all that work, girl. You're gonna have to take me on a date. And I was like, oh, ha 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 ha. You know, like that really awkward laugh, like, do what? And when we were walking in, he was like asking about, do I have a boyfriend and stuff? And I was like, yeah. And then I like showed him like my little ring. I was like, we've been together for like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years at that point. I was like, it's been a while. And he was like, wow, he's really lucky. I was like, yeah, he is, thanks. And he said again, he's like, really lucky. And I was like, thank you. You know, like, okay. And then when we went up to the class, it was another day. It was raining outside, drizzling, and I had my windows cracked like this because at the time my air wasn't working, so I needed like fluctuation in there. And he like, I mentioned like, so in class, like one of the days, they're like, if you have kids, raise your hand, because we were talking about something with kids. I raised my hand because I have a daughter, and we had talked about how I had a daughter before, and he didn't raise his hand, but he told me he had 3 kids. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And I was talking to some girl about him. I forgot how his name came up. No, they were talking about somebody. They're like, yeah, and Tyrone. I was like, who's Tyrone? And they like pointed at me, like, him. I was like, no, he told me his name was Jeremy. They're like, no, that's Tyrone. And then somebody else was like, no, that's somebody else. And he kept telling people that his name was like so many different things, and that like weirded me out too. I was like, you're not telling the truth about if you have kids or not, and you're not telling people your real name. Okay, whatever. And later in class that day, he came up to me. He was like, hey, he was like, do you have kids? And we like went over this before and said this in class. And I was like, yeah, I have a daughter. He was like, oh, because I saw the car seat in the back of your car. And I was just like, oh, did you? I was like, yeah. And he said something else that was in my car. Mind you, I have tinted windows on my back windows, like dark tinted. If you want to see into my car, you gotta be like this close up on my car. And I was like, oh yeah. He was like, by the way, your windows are down. It's raining outside. I was like, oh, are they? He was like, yeah. So I go out to my car. Why are my windows only down by like this much? I was like, there's no way you could have peeked in without being up on my car. And how did you notice my windows were this far down? Because you park behind me. Like I park here, he parks here behind me. Like it's a far little distance unless you walk straight past my car. And I was just like, oh, all right. And on one of the days, it was at night, I went to my car and I was just talking on the phone, I think to my boyfriend, like telling him about this guy. And then I got out the car and went upstairs because I was about to be late and they'll count you absent. Tell me why I locked my car keys in my car. And do you know where my spare was? Locked in my glove compartment. So when I was telling my teacher this and he was trying to like see like if I could stay in the building so I didn't have to be out there at night waiting for a tow truck. And finally the tow truck was saying it was on its way, so everybody was leaving and I was just standing outside. Dude comes up, I'm glad that he left because that was scary and I'm glad I didn't go over there. He came over to my car, he asked if everything was all right. He was like, yeah, he was like, how about you just come and sit like in my truck bed until they get here because he had a truck. And I was like, oh no, I'm okay, but thank you for the offer. I'm Gucci, thanks though. And then he like waited in his truck for a while. And then like he was about to get out and come talk to me again, but the tow truck pulled up and I was so thankful. And then we left. The last thing that was like weird is I felt like he was following me sometimes when we got out of school. And like I said, we went to school at night. We didn't get out to like 9 or 10. So for some car to be following you and you kind of know what the car is. And I don't live in Greensboro, which is where I took my class at. I live like 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away in another city. It was just like, how are you going this way? Like, I know you live somewhere in Greensboro, you know, like it was odd. And so I finally, this is the end of the story. I went up to this girl and I was telling her like, hey, this weird stuff has been happening to me. And I asked her, cause she sits beside him and I thought they were friends. She's like, oh my God. And she called all the other girls and like out to the hallway. And one girl was saying like how he like used to like grope her. And I was like, she's like, did that happen to you? And I was like, I would have threw hands. No, he didn't try to touch me. And then this other girl was like, yeah, he almost followed me all the way home, but like I noticed him and like I had to loop around a couple times. And we told the teacher, and his grades are like so low that like he couldn't continue on with class the next week anyway. So they talked to him about it. I left his book on his desk because I knew his last day was like coming up. And oh, that's my cat going under my fence. Hold on. Dang, Freya was outside. I saw her walking past the window. Not bad, girl. The teacher was like, oh, why didn't you tell me sooner? Like, he sounded like really genuinely worried. He was like, there's some things in his file that I can't tell you about, but I'm so glad you told me. He's got to go. And I was just like, oh. And that scared me. And like, they went ahead and they got rid of him. Also because his grades were dropping. And it turns out he called the teacher and was threatening the teacher about his grades, saying he was going to do some things to him. Then he called my teacher's boss, like the superintendent, and said the same things to him. And whatever threats that he said and whatever background he had with military or whatever else that he used to do, they had police at our school for the whole last week because they were scared he was going to do something. And then they had SWAT on like standby. They're trying to hurry up and get us done with like the test because they were scared he was going to like retaliate. And I was like, wow, that was really scary. And ever since then, like we never saw him after that. Like he didn't come back to the school. I graduated and I never went back over there again. But that was a story of the weird, creepy guy that was like stalking me. And yeah, let me know if you guys ever had a story like this, because it was really odd for me. And my next story time is going to be about, there was a teacher that was there and he was way older. The teacher was like 40, 50, but he was like trying to seduce girls that were there, and I was one of them. But I'll go ahead and tell you guys that story on the next time. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget that your existence matters.